"There's a youth hostel next door to us, sir," explained the driver, who had clearly made himself Poirot's guide to Devon. "Hewdown Park. It's completely full in summer-time, over 100 people a night." Poirot nodded. "Those girls' rucksacks look heavy," he said quietly. "Yes, sir, and it's 2 miles to Hewdown Park," said the driver. He paused. "If you don't mind, sir, could we give them a lift?" "Certainly," said Poirot. He was in an almost empty car, and here were 2 young women carrying heavy rucksacks. The driver drove up beside the girls. They looked up in a hopeful way. Poirot opened the door, and they got into the car. "It is kind of you. Thank you," said one of the girls. She had fair hair and a strong accent. The other girl, who had a face that was brown from the sun and golden brown hair showing under her headscarf, nodded, smiled, and said, "Grazie, thank you." The fair girl continued in a cheerful voice, "I came to England from Holland for a 2-week holiday. I like England. I see Exeter and Torquay, very nice, and tomorrow I cross river to Plymouth." "And you, mademoiselle?" Poirot asked, but the other girl just smiled and shook her head. "She does not speak much English," said the Dutch girl. "We both speak a little French, so we talked in French on the train. She is from Italy." The driver stopped at a place where the road divided into 2 parts. The girls got out, said thank you in 2 languages, and took the left-hand road. The driver turned right into thick woods. "There are nice young women at that hostel," he said, "but they're always trespassing, coming through our woods, and pretending they don't understand it's not allowed." He shook his head. They soon went through big iron gates and along a drive to a large white house looking out over the river. A tall, black-haired butler appeared on the steps. "Mrs. Oliver is expecting you, sir. She went for a walk in the woods." He showed Poirot a path through the wood with views of the river below. The path went down until it arrived at last at a viewing circle, a round open space with a low wall. Mrs. Oliver, who was sitting on the wall, stood up. As she got up, she dropped some apples on the ground. "I don't know why I always drop things," she said, with her mouth full of apple. "How are you, Monsieur Poirot?" "Very well, my dear madame. And you?" Mrs. Oliver had again, as she had said, changed her hair. It was not the same hairstyle as Poirot remembered. Today her hair was very curly. She was wearing a wool coat and skirt. "I knew you'd come," she said in a cheerful voice. "You could not know," said Poirot. "I still ask myself why I am here. Well, I know the answer. You're curious." There was a smile in Poirot's eyes. "You have the famous ability of women to guess correctly." He looked round. "It is a beautiful place. It belongs to some people called Stubbs." "Who are they?" "Oh, nobody really," said Mrs. Oliver. "Just rich,